Hello, World Civ 107. Welcome to week two. I apologize. Last week's announcement was the volume was very low. I'm having a problem with my microphone on my laptop. I don't really know what to do to fix it. This has some problems at times. It has bad feedback or some noise. So, but I hope this proves to be a little bit better and easier to listen to. So first of all, I want to say that it looks like many of you are doing well with following the instructions for the assignments. I realize that many of you right now have not even turned in all your work yet. I want to remind you that each week to look at the weekly objectives in the modules, and that's where you're going to find out when your assignments are due. And so, most of the time, it will be discussions and notes on Thursdays and paper on Sundays. Every once in a while, I'll put off some of the work on Thursdays onto a Sunday. I'll never do vice versa. And then with the papers, I just want to remind you that there should always be dates covering time periods and works cited. I made that very clear, and I gave examples in one of my announcements. I'm going to take it easy on all of you for grading this week because you're just getting familiar with this class. But I will be giving you notes, and I might be giving you full points this week, but telling you, hey, next time you're going to need to do X, Y, and Z. So please do that, because I will give zeros for papers that do not have dates for time periods or works cited, okay? As I've stated several times. So please keep that in mind. It's very important. And what I want you to just remember is that these Sunday papers are just to demonstrate a particular set of knowledge on a particular set of topics, or a topic that was directly covered from the material. So when I'm looking at, well, actually just everything in this class, let me just make this clear. When I look at your discussions, when I look at your notes, and when I look at your papers, I'm just looking to see, does this student sound like they're in my classroom and that they've watched all the videos and they're looking over the readings? And that's it. That's how I'm going about this. And so if you just get full points and there's no comments, it means I looked at it and I was like, hey, good job. What else do I have to say? You have full points because you did it how I wanted you to do it. Okay. But this week I might give full points and have some comments, and you're going to want to see, like, okay, I'm giving you full points this time, but next time you need to do X, Y, or Z. Okay. So keep that in mind. And so look, we are going to be bouncing over topics all over the place, like I said. So now we're going from the Far East into the Middle East, and the Ottoman Empire and the Safavids, all that kind of stuff. Some of you might really be interested in some of these topics, and others just may just be like, whoa, I was never hit with this information. What do I do with this? Some of you that had my 106 class will have already been exposed to some of these topics. But here's what's really important for you to understand. For instance, to understand the Middle East and to understand the developments that happened, understanding what the Ottoman Empire was just as important as understanding what the Soviet Union was. Okay, you can't understand what happened in this last century and even now without understanding what the Soviet Union was and how it developed. Okay, and we're going to cover the Soviet Union quite thoroughly and that legacy in this classroom. Okay, and so there's even a very famous Middle East historian that often talks about the problems of the Middle East being the post-Ottoman syndrome, when the Ottoman Empire falls and the kind of existential crisis that happens out of these newly formed states. The last video that I show you all is someone going over the Sunni Shiite split and trying to put a modern context to it. So it kind of takes us away from the time periods that we're covering and tries to address it in a more modern sense. And later on, as we learn more, you might be able to go back over that video and it would make more sense to you. The one thing that she got wrong, which was kind of what I see in a lot of comments, is that the Sunnis were dominant in Iraq for decades, she said, with Saddam Hussein. What she really wanted to say was centuries, because Iraq has long had a Shiite majority, but ruled by a Sunni minority, and the Ottoman Empire being one of being that. Now, at this point, this whole conversation may not make sense to you. I'm hoping that eventually it will. But it's important, because I just want to just say this one last thing, and we'll probably go over this again later when we cover the modern Middle East. I mean, we'll definitely go over it. The United States is very supportive of Saudi Arabia. You'll notice this has happened from Democrats to Republicans. Donald Trump, massive supporter of Saudi Arabia. But our government is told that Iran is evil. Now, it doesn't take somebody to think for too long and ask themselves, what is it that Saudi Arabia is doing different than what Iran does? And how is Saudi Arabia evil? And I mean, how is Saudi Arabia not evil and Iran? They both have very similar types of governments. And in fact, Iran has more religious freedom, because they do have Jews and Christians in their parliament. That's not allowed in Saudi Arabia. So what is that all about? That's what we call geopolitics. And we will be learning a little bit more about that much later in the class at the end, when we cover the making of the modern Middle East and the United States' role in it. And you should be cynical in the sense of saying, of understanding that nation states have what are called interests more than they have ethics or morals. And almost every nation state has a form of propaganda to justify what to maybe the people, the public, the broader population wouldn't understand or be on board with unless it was pitched in a certain way, okay? Now, I'm not saying this to promote anti-Americanism or to be like that cynical or you know, go deep down the rabbit hole of some conspiracy theories. This is just, I mean, we're in a free country right now, right? Supposedly, that's the idea. And then you can say these things, and what I'm letting you know is like there's a way to understand certain things that seem hypocritical or contradictory that actually make sense once you break down the actual strategy that's going on. And that's regardless of whether you think that it's positive or negative, but there is this kind of strategy that's there. And so so when the woman in the last video talks about how the religious conflict is not so much about religion but about power, some of you may disagree with that, which is totally fine. You know, like, but she's on to something in the sense, if we think about the way that Catholics and Protestants fight each other in Ireland, but in America, I mean, my dad was Catholic, born and raised Catholic, and my mom was raised Protestant. And our families didn't have issues over that. But in Ireland, in Northern Ireland, that's an issue. It's an issue because there's a history of political divisions that used identity politics based on your identity of being Catholic or Protestant. And lines are drawn in the sand. It's not about like how you're going to win a theological debate. It's like literally the identity that you have and what it means politically. And so we have to realize that this happens in many parts of the world. And at times when, you know, people look at this and they're like, then they get the holy books and they're trying to study and figure out, well, what would inspire people to do this? It seems contradictory to their religion. Well, it probably is, but it's not contradictory to the nature of how politics work, identity politics and power plays between different groups and leaders that manipulate those things to make, to try to get their own base established at the expense of somebody else. So anyhow, that's just my thoughts on all that for now. If you have any questions about the material, please let me know. I hope you're having a good week. A lot of things are going on right now. Remember to be good to others and to yourself, and we'll be in touch.